Welcome to tonight's special presentation. My name is Stan Heller, consultant for VectorVest Canada, and I'm very happy to be your presenter for this week's topic, the NPI, a game changer. You know, many traders struggle at times with knowing when to enter a trade and when to exit. Too often, this leads to indecision and ultimately frustration as they continue to second-guess themselves. If that's you, then listen to this. Recently, we discovered that by placing two specific moving averages on VectorVest proprietary relative timing, we created something very special we call the near perfect indicator. The NPI removes uncertainty from your trading and replaces it with a systematic, easy way to follow rules for better, more consistent entries and exits. Here's what Steve L. wrote in an email this week. Thanks for your NPI. I have been using it and think it's a game changer. And Joan G. wrote, I do not buy a stock without viewing the RT 540 near perfect indicator. It has made this difficult market manageable for me and fun. So tonight I'm just going to reveal two new features that we've introduced for the NPI, and one of them is the basic Npi Layout. It's now pre-built in your graph control panel. I'll show that to you later in the presentation. And you just double click on the near perfect indicator Npi down at the bottom to open that graph layout up. And also we have two new pre-built searches to find those breakouts just as they are occurring. The Npi crossing in the 1 day period and the NPI crossing in the 3-day period. Now both of these searches do require the ProTrader plugin, and if you don't have ProTrader, you can call our support team for a special trial offer. So as noted by my friend and colleague Mr. Jim Penna in his April 14th, 2022 special presentation, the near perfect indicator had its genesis with my essay in the VectorVest Canada Views on February 18, 2022. Here again are the highlights from the essay. Traders and investors are always searching for the perfect indicator. You know, the holy grail that never loses. How do I know? Well, I am one of those people. Sorry, but it doesn't exist. There is, however, one near perfect indicator that I use with virtually all my setups. I recommend it to every trader, especially those who are new to technical analysis and those who don't have a clear, consistent, and repeatable setup that makes them money more often than not. The indicator is VectorVest RT, or relative timing. RT is excellent on its own, but more and more I like the 40-day moving average of RT. It's an essential part of the Midas Touch graph layout, which is so popular for our VectorVest subscribers. But let me explain how you can use it to gain an edge and get into trades precisely when upside momentum is increasing. The rules of market timing always apply. We want the wind at our back. Here then are my rules for the safest setups to buy. The 5 moving average of RT has recently crossed above the 40 moving average of RT. The 40 moving average of RT has stopped falling and is flattening out or starting to turn up. For the safest entry, you can wait for the next buy recommendation if there isn't one in place already during the crossover. So that's it. Once you start looking for this pattern, it will literally jump off the page for you. It will tell you 3 things. 1, the trend. 2, how strong the trend is. And 3, the safest times to buy and sell, and we'll get into a few graphs to have a look. So RT is the key to the NPI. It is a stealth-like proprietary indicator of the short-term price trend, and it was created by VectorVest founder Dr. Bart DeLito. It is displayed on a 0 to 2 scale for ranking purposes, and here is how we define it in our stock analysis reports. RT is computed from an analysis of the direction, magnitude, and dynamics of a stock's price movement day over day, week over week, quarter over quarter, and year over year. So here we have a simplified market cycle graph from the Wall Street cheat sheet. And like the tides of the ocean, we can see that the market and a stock's price move in recognizable and repeatable wave patterns. We have a wave up where there's expansion. It gets to a peak, which is the point of maximum financial risk, because then momentum starts to dissipate, and we have contraction as price moves lower. It could be a pullback, or it could be more than that, and we come back into a trough. And this is actually the point of maximum financial opportunity. This is our buying opportunity where price has hit a near bottom and is starting to move up. And as it's moving up, we move into a recovery phase and prosperity or profit, and that's the expansion of price. And we find this consistent with stocks, that they move in these types of waves. And these patterns are picked up by VectorVest Relative Timing Indicator. In particular, the 5 moving average of RT and the 40 moving average of RT, as we can see on the next slide. Here's a graph of end phase on the US stock market. We have price in the upper half. Down below, we have a 5-period moving average of RT in green. And we have the 40-period moving average of RT in red. And you can see, just like on the simplified emotional graph before us, we see how the price moves in waves, and the RT 40 moving average in particular catches those waves perfectly in this example. So here would be an entry point using our rules-based methodology. We have the 5-period moving average of RT crossing above the 40, so a very strong entry, not catching it right at the bottom, but we're moving to the upside with momentum. And you can see there was a very nice profit to be had near the top. And if we waited until the 5 crossed below the 40 over here, we still capture a very nice piece of that gain. And of course, you always are going to give back a little bit of profit when you see the price starting to wane near the peak or the top of a cycle. And so you might consider, as a swing trader, some trailing stop protection, or just taking profits near the top based on the candlestick patterns, and you can hold more of that profit. But I'm focusing on the entry points, which will give you a systematic, well-defined method of entering a trade. Here's your next entry, and it was on a very large up candle, and price continued to rally from there. And again, if you waited until the 5 moving average crossed below the 40, you'd be out to capture some profit. And you have the final one here, and a little bit more choppy price action going to the upside. But you'll notice again, we're in the trough or the valley as 5 crosses the 40. That's a very good entry point. And as the slope of the 40 moving average of RT starts to rise, price is starting to gain momentum to the upside. And in this case, price went from about 170 or 175 all the way up to 260, for example. So we see this time and time again on our graphs, and we can key in and lock in those good entries and excellent exits as well. So let's focus on the entry points now as we look at the top VST stocks in the US, Canada, and Australia markets. So I'm just going to open up the US first. And I've opened it up to the stock viewer. The default sort is by value, safety, and timing. And so we'll just graph them and have a look at the entry points determined by the moving averages of RT. So we've opened it up to the VectorVest default layout. And again, the new feature, we come up to our graph layouts, left click, And there's the NPI, the near perfect indicator. So everyone will have that in all 5 of our VectorVest countries. And we just double click on it. And I'm just going to look primarily at the right edge here to look at the most recent crossover as the market is picking up some steam, as we can see from the VectorVest market timing indicators. And so here is the most recent crossover. And again, the 40 moving average of RT is in a trough. And we're starting to pick up momentum here. And that was a very strong entry at about $60. And we go to $96 on Clearfield. And of course, what I like about this layout is we do see the price action. So we can certainly use that as a guide for our entry as well. For example, if we drew our horizontal resistance line, we got above resistance right about there. A little after the 5 and 40 crossover, but still a very good entry from that point of view. Here we have another crossover. And by the way, at the top of the graph, we'll notice we have a 5 moving average of the stop price, another proprietary VectorVest indicator. It's an indicator of when to sell. So we get a big red S when the 5 moving average, when the stop price has crossed, or the price has crossed below the stop. We get a sell rating. And we found by putting these moving averages, the same 5 and 40 moving averages, the 5 in blue and the 40 in red, it gives us more information, and this time it's about the medium to longer term trend. So mostly I'm speaking today about swing trading using the 5 and 40 crossover of the RT, but you can see the 5 and 40 long-term trend displayed quite nicely here as well. So ACLS, again, we come back. We had our crossover back here. It did pull back off the crossover, so you might have gotten stopped out depending on where you put your stop. If you held, as long as the 5 RT moving average stayed above the 40, you would still be in that trade going from $58 to about $70. And over here at the right, we get a buy rating from VectorVest, so a little bit of confirmation of the trend and a nice move from there. It's another one, PLAB, very nice move after the crossover on the RT. HR, so the initial crossover happened way back here. Did take some time to get rolling to the upside, but it certainly did that. And again, you can use price action to make a decision to come in a little bit later. This would have been a very nice entry here. Or again, if you waited until we broke through the resistance, you'd be in the trade in a good place. Right, so that is the US side, and I'll just take this opportunity to show you the searches that we have for you now in your VectorVest program. They do require the Pro Trader. I'll click on the Unisearch tab, and I'll just scroll down to the Near Perfect Indicator. So it's a folder on its own here. And first of all, we have the NPI crossing 1 day. So today, the 5-day moving average of RT is greater than the 40 moving average of RT. But 1 day ago, in the date time section, the 5-day moving average of RT was less than the 40. And we put in some price and volume criteria as well. So this is pre-built for you. When you run the search, what it's going to give you are stocks where the RT has just crossed the 5 above the 40. You can see that on the graphs. You can just hone in here a little bit to a 6-month graph. So the 5 have crossed above the 40. And so we might put this stock in a watch list, and when it breaks this recent high, that would be a good buying opportunity. This one is breaking out as we speak. Here's the 5 above the 40. And and the 5 above the 40, and we just need to break above this recent high. So it's a way to catch these moves. For example, back here, the search would have found AVT right at the crossover, had a very nice rally to the upside before breaking down. So that's the idea behind that search. The second search is the NPI crossing 3 days. So within the last 3 days, the 5 moving average of RT has crossed above the 40. It will give you more stocks to study, and you will find some continuation patterns where the 5 broke above the 40 and is continuing to move higher. So just a little different look on some of the stocks. If I set my date line a couple of days back, you can see that the crossover occurred in here. So again, you're waiting for price to break out. And here, crossover happened 3 days ago, and the stock is starting to break out. Crossover happened 3 days ago, and we're getting some follow through on the day. Same situation here as well. So you're going to have more stocks to look at, and you're going to be able to find some of those continuation patterns. So here's DSX, 5 broke above the 40 3 days ago, and the stock continues to move higher. So that search is available in all of our countries. All right, so that's the US side. We'll just quickly go to the Canadian market. I've opened it up to the stock viewer, sorted by VST, graph them all. And again, the layout is here for you. So we just double click on it. And there's our crossover in a valley or trough of the 40 moving average of RT. Those are the ideal positions to be buying. Very nice move from there. Petroleum has been on fire in Canada, as it has in many of our countries, and some very good entries on that stock. And another entry just happening right now, but back here, very strong entry from the trough. And of course, you can wait for the 40 to stop falling, come in a little bit later, based on price action. You know, it broke out of this channel. So you could come in a little bit later if you like. Got a buy rating up at the top to confirm everything. But if you come in early, you're ahead of the crowd and you're making money on the way up. So here's the most recent move on this one, over here to the right edge, and it's still going ahead. And Vermilion, same thing, very nice entry there. You select, very strong entry here, and prices continue to rally. So some excellent opportunities there. I think you would agree with Steve that this really is a game changer for many traders and investors. And just I'll look at one more, and that's the Australian market. We have the UK and Europe as well. Here's Australia, and I just wanted to show this because I've used the and I think I went right back to Canada, so I want to make sure I get the Australian market here. There we go, pull it over. And we're using the black screen here, so I wanted to show that. And go to the Tools tab and Application Settings. I've been using the classic white screen. That's this theme layout in the center here. But the VectorVest 7 is the dark background. So whatever your preference is, you can change the color of your background and your graphs. Click OK. And when we open the graph, here's the default layout. We just go to our near perfect indicator layout, and we see the 5 moving average of RT in that dark green, a very nice entry back here above the 40 moving average of RT. In the top portion of the graph, we have our price action. We have the 5 moving average of the stop price in blue, and the 40 moving average of the stop price in red. So very vibrant color scheme with this layout. And again, the crossovers giving us that consistent, strong entry all the way along. Here was one in the trough, just a perfect entry, and we enter the position at around $2.66, and it rallies up to about $4 at the top end there. And of course, price did keep going, but we know that we're nearing the end of momentum because we see the peak of our 40 moving average of RT, and eventually price does weaken and fall, and we get the next entry over here. Here's another terrific entry. Yet another terrific entry. And of course, it actually started way back here at the left about a year ago. Very nice move to the upside. And then another very nice move to the upside. So we'll close out of that. And slides again. So today we revealed two exciting new features: a pre-built, ready-to-use NPI graph layout, and two terrific NPI searches to find stocks that are just breaking out. So stay tuned for more enhancements to the NPI. We'll be bringing them to you in terms of more graphs and more searches, so do stay tuned for the NPI. And I want to thank you everyone for watching, and there's our product support number if you need any assistance or you would like to consider the Pro Trader trial. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend.